What's up? I'm Pandrea and welcome to Slider. Slider is a simple, straightforward, and visual sandwich effect. I've always wanted to do a sandwich routine where you visually see the process happening of the cards finding the one selection, and this is what I came up with. Alright guys, here we are with the explanation of Slider. So I've always wanted to do a sandwich routine where you actually see the process happen of the two cards and they find the one card, either slow motion or you see them actually come together and finding it. And there's very few sandwiches that do that. A lot of them, especially the ones I do, the process is invisible, so the queens or the jokers or whatever sandwich cards you have would disappear, and then when you spread through the cards you'd see that they actually found one card in between. So this could be used either after the fact of doing that, where they come together and sandwich a card, and then you say, let me show you how it works, or just as a standalone. So it's a nice visual trick, and the moves are very interesting. The construction of the routine is interesting, so let's get into it and hope you enjoy. Okay, let's get into the explanation of the slider effect. You're going to need two cards as your sandwich cards. I used the two queens, the red queens. You can use jokers or whatever other mates you want. And the two queens in this case are on top of the pack. Now we're going to have a card selected as you saw in the demo. Now here's one thing to keep in mind from the very beginning. I spread and have a card touched and I show the card. In this case, let's say the three of diamonds is the selected card. Now what you want to remember is that whatever card you touch and pick up over here to show, this block right here, the block starting from the selection below to the top card, is the block that's going to be remaining at the end. So what I mean by that is at the end there's going to be one queen here and one queen here. That's the position we're going to get into. So it's these number of cards that are going to be what ultimately will end up in this position. Okay, so you have to go through these many cards to do the effect. Now this is going to depend on your comfort level of how comfortable you feel with the effect and the move that you need to do it with. So I say this number of cards is perfect for me. You might want to start with less cards, you might want to start with more cards, but if you have a card selected all the way here, it's going to be hard to keep track of everything and have everything in your hand while doing the moves, okay? Because there's a few things that are going to go out at once. So just keep that in mind when we go through this. So I have a card selected from, let's say, about 15 cards, I would say, okay? So three of hearts. Now I'm going to come here and square everything up and keep a finger break above the selection. So I have a pinky break, below the selection. So the three of hearts is here, and the pinky break is below it, like that. I'm going to hold this card into middle position, okay? And this card is on top with the rest of the pack, just like that. I'm going to come here, and I'm going to place the queen of diamonds on top of the queen of hearts. As I do that, I'm going to get ready to do what would be a cover pass, okay? A half of a cover pass. I'll show you why, because we're going to switch it up in a bit. Queen of diamonds goes on top. Now the pattern, after you're going to make the queen of diamonds disappear. So watch the queen of diamonds, you say. Watch the queen of diamonds, and this packet is going to get levered this way to the right as this card goes on top. So now as you can see here, this packet is going to come out, as you were to do a cover pass and bring it to the bottom. The only difference is you're not bringing it to the bottom, you're going to bring it back on top, okay? So that's the reason that you need to keep that break and to keep this packet where it is, all right? Queen of diamonds, watch the queen of diamonds on top. You're going to pull, pull, pull while this is still here. Now everything comes flat, and this, instead of going to the bottom, will go back on top. So it's literally going from the top back on top, and now you're doing the gesture to make the queen of diamonds disappear. Okay? So that's part number one. Now you're going to do the exact same thing to make this disappear, except it's going to come from the bottom. So you're going to riffle about maybe another 15, 20 cards and come here, dip down, and now this is just going to be like a Herman pass. You're going to do a Herman pass, come up here, and do that to make it disappear. We'll go over different touches of how to actually make the vanishes look good, but for now we're just going to stick with that. So again, from here, I'm riffling down, I'm coming up, and then I'm coming down, just like that. Both cards disappear from the top of the pack. Now you're going to go into the revelation. You're going to spread through the cards one by one, and now you want to keep it deep into the thumb crotch right here. So you're going to keep it deep as your thumb extends all the way and start pushing, because you're going to need these fingers as free as possible to do the dirty work on the bottom. So I'm going to go here, spread, and say, look, one queen vanished and appeared into the middle of the pack. Now what you're going to do is move these cards further to the left, just like that. Further to the left, and this card will get culled to the right. Now, one important thing is what you don't want to do is start culling this card so this moves. The better way to do it is to cull this, and just enough so that when you start pushing these, you don't want this to move too much, right? You want to push these underneath the queen and keep the pressure with the right finger. So these fingers will keep pressure so that it stays and it doesn't flap in and out, because if it were truly in the middle, it wouldn't come in and out like that. So you keep pressure, and you're pushing and you're pushing and you're pushing until you get to the second card, okay? And the second card, you're going to out jog just like this. So now you're in this position with a whole bunch of cards. Now the pattern for this would be, so how many cards do you think are in between? Now here's the misdirection, because they're going to look at the cards in between and not at the two queens. They see it in their peripheral vision that they're one on the top, one on the bottom, and their duty now, as you say, is to, how many cards do you think are in between? Can you count them really fast? Now you're going to start to spread. You're going to start to spread, and the right fingers are going to push this card forward to the left. So from the right, it's going to start pushing to the left as your left thumb pushes these. You're going to go up and down as it still pushes, and now you're just pushing more and more cards underneath this until you get to the last one. Once you get to the last one, you're going to stop, raise this up a little bit, and push more with your right fingers. Okay, I'm doing this slowly as you're still going up and down just a little bit. Now what you're going to want to do is spread these even more into the right thumb crotch, and now get a whole block from here and start spreading more from this side. Okay, so it's going to look like the cards just came together with a motion of this from left to right and a motion of this. The illusion should be good. Okay, so once again, really quickly, this is about here. You're going to come here, show the first one. Now don't pull it as much as you separate them, okay, and just enough so this card gets in there first, because once this card gets in there, all the cards would get in there, and you're going to stop about here and have this visual of the two cards and say, how many cards are in between? Can you count them really fast? And as they count them, you say, actually, there is one. So you push all the blocks now here, and you start pushing here. So you want to get the same ending, this position, as if these were the cards that were in the middle. Okay? So that's it. Let's go through it once again with all the steps and make sure you got it. Okay, so here we go once again. 2 cards are on top, and I spread, and I get the selection. 6 of spades, catch a break as I separate the 2 cards. Break is underneath, below it. Show the queen, say watch the queen of diamonds. You're going to do a cover pass, but instead of going to the bottom, you're going to go to the top and make the first card disappear. So queen of diamonds is gone, leaving the queen of hearts. Show it just like this, come back up, and now you're going to do a Herman pass of that, doing whatever motion you want. Queens are disappeared from the pack, and they actually go inside the middle, and they find 1 card. So there's the first one, and here is the second one. Now it's getting a little messy. You don't want this, okay? So I took a little too many cards, okay? But that's okay. So you want this right here. Now you're gonna say, how many cards are in between the queens? Can you count them really fast? Up and down, start pushing from the right to the left with your right fingers of this first queen, the top one, and you're moving the cards underneath it until you get to that one. Pop it up and start to spread, just like that, okay? So you want a nice even spread at the end. Now I know it could get messy, and that's what you have to work on getting. Okay, so here it is again. Spread, spread, spread. You get to here. Now one important thing that you can do is get your left fingers on the cards that are above the selection. So if the selection was here face up, okay, 6 of spades, you want to get your fingers on everything and spread everything until that 6 of spades, so above it, so the 6 of clubs. I'm putting pressure here, so you know that that's the card that you want to stop on once you get to the sandwich card. Okay, that's the one, that's the last one that gets pushed underneath. So that's just a little tip. Here are some options to make the vanish look as best as possible. For the first one, after you have your break and the 2 cards, you're going to come up, and now what you can do is show the queen of diamonds. As you come here, you could pick up the queen of hearts and show now it's just the 1 queen of hearts and the queen of diamonds has disappeared, almost like a Malone shift, if you know that. Another way that you can do it is with a riffle. So I'm going to come here, from here, and then just riffle it up. Queen of diamonds disappears. You can do the same kind of thing as the one previously, but don't pick up any of the cards. So you come here and you say, watch the queen of diamonds. I'm going to take it and pretend you take the queen of diamonds, throw it into the pack. And the same thing with the queen of hearts. I'm going to take it, throw it into the pack. That's another way to do it. Another way, you could do the midnight shift. So that motion is like this. You show the 2 queens, come up to here, and now from here, you're going to twist your hand this way, okay? And that has a nice visual because the bigger action covers the smaller. And then the same thing with here. You could do that to make them disappear. So just play around with those kind of ways to do it, and I'm sure you'll find something that works for you. So one tip to make this look as best as possible, the last thing you want to do is make it look like just that 1 card is moving from here to here, right? So how do we get around that? Well, one way is to move your body from your right to your left. So say there's the card, and there's your position. So you can show, and you can start to move this way as you show, and ask them how many cards, if you're doing it for an audience, for a couple of people, let's say there's 3 people, 1 to your right, middle, and left. Now you could start showing it to the person on the right, say how many cards, how about you, how many cards? And as you move, you're going to drag, 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 and by the time you get to the last person, there's only going to be 1 card in between. Okay, so that's one way. Another way to do it is with almost a flick of the wrist, an up and down motion. Although I don't prefer this, this is how I was playing around with it before. I come up, and as I come up, I slide, and then as I come down, I spread. Okay, that's another way to do it. So play around with those couple of ways, and play around also not to go too far up when you do the sliding action, because if you go too far up, they're going to see this, which is not good. So you want to just come here just enough to grab their eyes off of the cards themselves so they can't concentrate on one thing. So show, push, and start to spread, okay? Just like that. And there you have it. All right, guys, there you have it. That's the slider routine. Like I said, I think it differs from other sandwiches because it does have that visual factor. But you do want to try to make it look as good as possible. That goes without saying. But really, practice it first before you go out and show people. And it always helps if there's more people around, because then you could have that motion from left to right with the shaking up and down. You don't want to stand still and just make it look like you're sliding the one card, okay? So that's the main thing that I want to tell you guys before, and that's the problem I had for a long time, just how to make it look as if just the card is not sliding, the obvious answer to it. So that's the one thing to keep in mind when doing this routine. Other than that, practice the vanishes and make them look as best as possible with the different variations, switch them up, do what you got to do, and have fun with it. So that's sliders, and thanks again.